What's up, everybody at Broad River Church? I'm so excited to be with you. My name is Wayne Francis. I'm the lead pastor of the Life Church New York here in Westchester, not very far from you guys. And I've been great friends with Pastor Kevin and Jacinta for many years. And it's an honor for me to come and talk to you a little bit about a subject that is definitely transformational, regardless of where you land spiritually, and that is prayer. In fact, I'm going to go to an Old Testament book called Joshua, and Joshua is a story about transition and trajectory and about moving life forward, particularly when you hit obstacles. And I think this passage that we're going to read about, it's not about prayer in particular, but it has implications that will impact your and my prayer life. So in the book, we find out that Joshua rose early in the morning and they set out from Shittim and they came to the Jordan, which was the obstacle, the river Jordan here. And he and all the people of Israel lodged there before they passed over. But at the end of 3 days, the officers went through the camp and commanded the people, as soon as you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God being carried by the Levitical priests, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Yet there shall be a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits in length. Do not come near to it, in order that you may know the way you shall go, for you have not passed this way before. Then here's a key verse. Then Joshua said to the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Now, I've noticed a couple of people that have this illness, and I think it's an illness for sure. See, my family and I, when we eat at dinner or lunch or breakfast, man, we just pile everything onto a plate. We are indiscriminate about having everything on our plate. But my friend Brian from Long Island, he has something that I consider an illness. I've seen several other people with this, and for some reason, he can't allow the food on his plate to touch each other. And so his fried chicken can't touch his mac and cheese. His salmon can't touch his asparagus. His rice can never interact with his steak. In fact, he told me that when he cuts his steak, there can be nothing else on the plate because if any juice comes out and touches anything else, he can't eat it. Now, I'm sorry, I don't have such sophisticated taste buds, and apparently I'm not into some of the culinary etiquette around flavors not mixing. For him, he feels like when some flavor touches another, it makes him nauseous or they just can't touch. For me, I just look back and say, you ain't hungry. There's a lot of people that actually struggle with this so badly that, man, even when they're texting people, their food emojis can't touch each other. For Brian, and for some of you that are more picky eaters, the way food is arranged on a plate makes a difference to you. When you look at it, you say, well, I can't eat it if it looks a certain way. And for many of you, you say, well, if I taste other food, there's some people that struggle with it, that they can't even chew two different types of food in their mouth. You say the flavor becomes indistinguishable. And that's a struggle. Well, in this text, the Jewish people had reached an obstacle where they couldn't cross over it. Now they had courage to follow Moses, and now they were following Joshua, but their courage wasn't going to get them over the obstacle. It would be consecration. In fact, Joshua said to the people, instead of giving them a roadmap on how to get over it, he said that God had impressed upon him that they should consecrate themselves. For tomorrow the Lord would do wonders among you. Now, the word consecrate, we don't use in our day-to-day vernacular, do we? But it means for something to be set apart for the exclusive use of God. It means that something would be considered hallowed, or it would be considered as a thing that God would exclusively use for his own honor and his glory. And while I don't believe that God struggles with brumotactilophobia, which is the formal name for people that have the fear of food touching each other on a plate, I do think that there's times where God looks at his people and he looks down at them. And it's sort of like he'd like to see them assembled like one of those plates that you give your kids where you can put the carrots and you can put the beans in one compartment, or one of those plates that we get at cookouts that are segmented in a way where you can put food in each little section without them touching. I believe that there are times where God looks at his people and he says, look, unless you're arranged in a particular way, I can't use you. Or unless you're separating yourself, not touching the things that you normally do, I can't use you the way I want to use you. So how do we get used by God? Well, we separate ourselves with prayer, and we separate ourselves by focusing on God exclusively for his use, because consecration takes us where courage can't. Now, I like shortcuts, but there is no shortcut around prayer. In fact, when I'm riding my bike, because I'm a cyclist, I had to learn something about how I can go further faster. I learned that you have to draft behind another rider, and you get your tire so aligned with that person, but with enough distance that they actually pull you forward. That's what prayer does. Prayer pulls us forward so that we exert less energy in our own abilities and in our own strength. And when we consecrate ourselves through prayer, God does amazing things. Now, when I was in a different faith context, I thought that being holy or being more like God meant not going to movie theaters, not having a TV in my house, not wearing certain things. But holiness is not about being perfect. It's about being set apart. So how do we do that? We do it with prayer. Now, let me give you some things that are going to help you grow spiritually. Consecration and prayer is never convenient. It's not like you're going to just wake up one day and be like, man, I just got all this time on my hands. Let me just pray for 2 hours. No, it's a habit that you develop like a muscle over time. Consecration takes concentration, which means that you've got to be a person that concentrates on things that you want to connect with God on. So for instance, all of us need a slot, a spot, and a strategy. You need a slot of time that you pray, that you calendar. You need a spot that you pray in, maybe your living room or your kitchen, or even a seat on the Metro North as you're going to work. And that place is a place that you can connect with God, and it should be a place where you're a little bit undistracted. And then you need a strategy to focus on how you want to pray about certain things. And it requires preparation, because God uses prepared people. People prepared are people that God distributes to show his glory and to show his purposes. But we also have to come to prayer with expectation that God is going to do something amazing. God told those people that if you prepare today, I'm going to do wonders tomorrow. And when we get focused on prayer, we need to be eager and gripped with a sense of awe and wonder that God is going to accomplish something big in our lives. Now, recently, maybe some of you guys lost power in that storm that we had last month. Me and my family were out of power for 8 days. We ended up having to stay with some neighbors. You want to know why? We didn't have a generator. If we had a generator, when all of the power went out, we would have been able to get through that storm a whole lot easier. I wish I didn't hesitate. But you know what prayer is? It's a spiritual generator that will allow you to have power. It's not going to make you avoid obstacles, and it's not necessarily going to reduce the probability of encountering challenging times, but it will give you power to get through the storms of life. The day I came back to our house after being out of it for 8 days, a guy came by my house to help set up the generator. He said, you know, you got power lines outside, and I can see them connected to your house. Some of the people that didn't lose power in your neighborhood, do you want to know why they didn't lose power? He said they did something very expensive. They put the power lines underneath their houses, and it connected to their house. Invisible to the eye, but effective to everyone around. Listen to me, everybody at Broad River. Listen. Prayer gives you power because it tucks it away in places that nobody else can see. But I can tell you, when it comes down to when things get really dark, when you have those power lines that are not obvious to everybody else, but they are rooted deep down in a place that nobody else can see, it'll give you power to get through the storms of life. So Broad River, open up your hearts big and wide to God and realize that you can be courageous in this season, but courage will only get you so far. We need prayer and we need consecration to get us over our obstacles. So God bless you, and thank you for allowing me a few moments to encourage you about the power of prayer.